We've got several folks from around the area. I think we're fixing to lose somebody. Jim Archer, congratulations on your new job down in Orange, Texas. It's going to be a little further away from Houston than what you probably want to be able to participate in some of the railroad clubs down there. But we're going to miss you from being a member of D1. But we'll still have our Zoom meetings, and if you want to, you can still participate with us remotely. So we'd like that. And thanks again for taking care of those turnouts for me. I appreciate that. Let's see. We've got elections coming up. I want to run through some announcements. The NMRA regional elections are in March. The slate of candidates have come in, and it's my understanding that nobody is running against me for Division I director, so you guys are stuck with me for another 2 years, like it or not. So, Barry, you can smile when I said that. It's okay. I mean, there you go. So we've got that going on. Also, yeah, that's right. Thanks. I see you. I got you all covered over there. The national elections, or international elections, I guess is what it would be, are coming up, and those ballots, you should be seeing those ballots come out sometime in January. There's a couple of contested races, and if you'd like to talk to me privately, I can tell you who I'm supporting as a candidate, but those choices are obviously on your own. I think there's only one contested race on the ballot right now, but it's the presidency of the entire organization. So you can see that, and I'll let you make those decisions on your own. Let's see. If you would make sure, if you go over to the side of your Zoom call, please rename yourself with full name so that as Mike Ross takes our roster and our roll, we've got everybody's name so we know who attended today's meeting. I see, Ed, you've got, you're in there, but we don't know who you are otherwise. So if you would, we would appreciate you guys putting your full name in there so Dr. Ross can take care of us. Obviously, since you're here, you understand that we're not having our Christmas party this evening. We had opened up the door to allow Division III to participate with us since we had the space and availability to do that. Fortunately, due to COVID-19 and the numbers rising, and everybody's concerned about that, and I can understand why, we only had 23 people, and that included significant others that responded to come to the party. And based on that, it was not going to be feasible to do that for that. So we had to cancel that, and unfortunately revert back to where we are, which ties into the next thing, which is where are we as far as our flat car clinic? Guys, this is the clinic from who knows where, and if you pardon my French, the clinic from hell that will not go away, because we just can't seem to get there. And I've had to make some tough decisions on that. And I know everybody wants to. I know people have paid their money for their parts. The parts are sitting right behind me here in my office. But guys, I just can't see us having a face-to-face meeting before May of next year. Unless something happens drastically with this new vaccine that they're coming out, I just don't think it's prudent for us to try to get together face-to-face until then. And I hope you guys are in agreement with me on that. I just think that's probably the soonest we're going to be able to do that flat car clinic. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up and a lot of people saying they agree with me. I want to let this whole thing die down to get back to what was old normal rather than new normal. And I just think that it's prudent for us to remain where we are, sit tight. Let's just let this thing play out on its own. And then we'll do our clinics and our face-to-face and go from there. But the Joe Lysing has stepped in, and we've got a slate of very good clinics coming up. Joe, do you have, you want to pop in here for a second? And we don't have a camera on you. Maybe that's by design.
That's so you don't have to look at my face.
I understand. But if you've got a camera, we'd love to see you.
Button for punishment.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. But can you run down the list of 2021 clinics as you've got it set up right now?
Sure. We're looking at a lot of interesting and exciting topics for 2021. In addition to the layout tour that Greg is going to present to us next month, we're going to have clinics on DCC, dead rail, mining, giving your railroad a purpose, the scratch building clinic, of course. And Jeff Palmer has offered to continue with his presentation on building roads, as well as we're going to have a clinic on signs on your railroad. So quite a few different things, all of great interest to everybody, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. So I want to talk to you. Let's talk about the 2021 regional convention, which is the Tulsa Union Convention. The website is up right now. I think if you do a search on Tulsa Union Convention 2021, you're going to find it. I had a conversation yesterday with the regional convention chair, which is Mark Lachey. He's working with, the guy in Tulsa. Jim, what's the guy that used to be in Houston that's now living in Tulsa? Right, MMR, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. Dwayne, you remember? You know who I'm talking about? Or is Dwayne even here? Dwayne's
Ken Ellers.
Yeah, Ken Ellers. Thanks, Jeff. Ken Ellers is the co-chair from the Mid-Continent. This is going to be the first time we've ever had a joint regional convention with another region. Kind of pioneering some stuff here. It's going to be in Tulsa. There's some fantastic layouts in Tulsa. I would urge you to, Barry, you've been up there. You know those layouts up there because you've been up there for the operating sessions. And just amazing layouts up there. Steve Davis has got a great layout. Ken Eller's layout I've operated on several times. It's just, there's some fantastic layouts up there to go and see and tour. I think they said there's like 20 something layouts up there that they're going to be having on the layout tour. Amazing clinics for 2 days up there. They're trying to determine participation. So if you have an interest in signing up for this particular region, I would urge you to go out to the website and go ahead and register. If they cancel, if there's a cancellation, I'm not sure exactly how they will be refunding your registration, but if you don't register, then the powers that be will see that there is not a lot of interest in the convention, and therefore they won't continue with the planning of the convention after March of this year. They're going to go ahead and cancel it. So if we have an interest in participating and having this convention, we need to step up and show everybody that we're interested in having this convention. So I would urge you to step out and do that. I'm going to talk about this again next month. I'll probably send out an email to everybody so everybody can understand and what you need to do. So I I support the convention. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be an opportunity for us to get together, and there'll be social distancing and everything, and we'll be able to participate. If you've not ever been to a regional convention, it's a really neat thing, and there's some great clinicians from around the country that are coming in for that, so it'll be really, really good. So I would urge you to do that. Let's see, NMRAX. If you haven't participated with NMRAX, really need to think about that. They have a event that's going to be online on Sunday, December 27th. It's going to be the Christmas virtual model railroad convention from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's going to be 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Would urge you to participate in that. It's going to be on YouTube and Facebook. So it'll be streaming live, and you can participate with that. It'll be a lot of fun if you've never done that. Also, let's get back over here. December 31st, there'll be 2 hours to celebrate the beginning of the year and NMRAX. I urge you to go to the NMRAX website to find out more details on that. Then on the 4th Saturday of every month, beginning January 23rd, there is going to start being on NMRAX 6 clinics a day every 4th Saturday. So that's the way that they're going to move forward with that schedule. Guys, the NMRAX whole process has been absolutely fantastic for our hobby, for our organization, and it's just been tremendous. I really urge you to support it. I would urge you to reach out and go to Daylight Sales. You can go to daylightsales.net, and there is a link on there where you can buy NMRAX shirts, caps, jackets, whatever. All the proceeds to that help promote and continue the NMRAX program. So I would urge you to do that and show your support of the whole thing there. Also, on December 31st, there's going to be the Piedmont division of the Southeast region. That's over where you are, Jason. There's going to be out of the Southeast region. Piedmont, I believe, is like out of Atlanta. I'm not sure. And so they're going to be streaming 8 half-hour clinics for beginners on December 31st. They're going to stream those clinics twice. So if you know somebody that's trying to get into the hobby, trying to understand exactly what they're trying to do, newbies that you may know, direct them to that. Barry, what you got?
Quick question. Are all those events listed somewhere?
If you go out and search for NMRAX or go onto the NMRA website and do a search for NMRAX, I think that's where you're going to find all of that information on that. Also, do you participate on Facebook at all?
Yeah.
Okay. You can subscribe to the NMRAX group on Facebook, and all of that is listed there. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barry, I know that the Piedmont division over there that Mike was talking about, they have a Facebook group, and that the Piedmont division is in the SER, and they're out of there. I'll say Atlanta. I'll say it was about half of the state of Georgia anyway, but they're over. It's the greater Atlanta area is basically where that is.
Great,
hey, Mike.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Glad to do it. So let's see.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Go to the marker lamp also and you guys can look at an article on Gordy.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And the NMR and the NMRAX and how it came into existence. So if you're interested in some new history, It's there in the marker lamp. The marker lamp is open to the public. All you got to go to is LoneStarRegion.com. And on the left-hand side, you'll find the thing that says marker lamp, and then you just go find the fall issue. And that's it. As far as that goes, it's on the homepage. You'll see a picture of a homepage for marker lamp.
Great. Great idea, Jeff. Thanks for bringing that up. Jeff produced a, and by the way, guys, how many of you guys read the marker lamp? I mean, seriously, read the marker lamp. Okay. I'm talking about cover to cover, read the marker lamp. All right. If you don't, you're missing out because there's a lot of great information in there. Don't ignore it. There's clinics in there. And by the way, those of you who are outside of our area, in Division 1 and maybe even in another region, if you are not getting the marker lamp and would like to have it, then let me know. We'll get you signed up so that you can start getting it, and we'll get you, because anybody can get it. And also, it's also a circumstance where you can get it off of our website. So it's always on our website, which is LoneStarRegion.com. Is that right, Jeff?
Correct.
LoneStarRegion.com is always got the latest version of the marker lamp on it. I would also tell you that if you go to our I'm sorry, I'm getting pinged here from people who are trying to go into our meeting, but they're saying they can't get in. They're probably trying to link into an old link, and they're saying that they can't get in. So I'm going to have to deal with that in a minute. I'm going to kind of flip it to Dwayne here in a second and answer that. And since Dwayne's here, and we'll get him to give us some tips and tricks, and I've got one for myself, but go to the Cowcatcher Division.org website. Mr. Corley, raise your hand. Wave to everybody, Mr. Corley. There he is right there. Mr. Corley is our webmaster and communications guru, and he is posting all of our Zoom meetings and all of our YouTube videos from clinics and everything. There's a link right across the top to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel so that we can keep all that going. We want to build up our YouTube presence. We want to build up our division and keep all the momentum going that we've been building over the last couple of 3 years. Dwayne, tips and tricks. I've got one that I want to share, and hang on just a minute. Let me bring up a picture here that I want you guys to be able to see if I can find it.
Hey, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, before we get into that, I'd like to share a comment about the article about Gordy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually running for the president of the NMRA. And in reading that article, you get some really good information that gives you a know your candidate, if you will, what he's done in the past for the organization, as well as his visions for the future. So it's very informative reading. I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that. Okay,
thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. I also wanted to mention, and Joe, I'm not slapping your fingers here. Don't take it that way, because you weren't aware, but there are very succinct and restrictive rules placed on our organization about campaigning for a particular person. You can't campaign. You can't use NMRA resources to campaign for a particular candidate. So you have to be careful how you word things if you're trying to support one person versus another person. So I don't want it to be mistaken that we're trying to support one candidate or another with this video and with this meeting. I would urge you to make your choices. I would urge you to be an informed voter. Those are things that I can tell you here, and that's non-biased for one way or the other. I have my candidate that I'm supporting, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. But Joe makes a very strong point. Know your candidate, know your background, know what they've done for the organization and what they've brought to the table for positive promotion of this organization. Okay. I was trying to bring up a picture here. Let me see if I can still find it. That of a I'm trying to share this if I can find the right photograph. Bear with me just a split. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to screen share this image. And so guys, when you're looking at decaling, we're going to be doing in the at the Plano Train Show, which is still going to go on. We're going to have a big NMRA presence there. The NMRA booth is going to be up on the stage this year due to social distancing because they couldn't have the clinics in the clinic room because you can't crowd a bunch of people in the clinic room. So the clinics are going to be on stage right next to the NMRA booth. I think it's going to probably work out okay. We're going to try it and see how we like it. It's the way it's going to be kind of interesting because we're going to have all of our NMRA signs and banners up there, and the way it's going to be hung and the fact that we're on the stage, it's going to give the impression that the Plano Train Show is pretty much put on by the NMRA. I can think of worse things. Okay. So pardon me for being a little biased, but anyway, so that said, if we're going to still need, and Division 3 is kind of responsible for the NMRA booth. Typically, Division 1 takes care of the fall show, which was canceled. Division 3 takes care of the January show, which is moving forward. We're probably going to need some volunteers to help work the NMRA booth to do certain things. If you would contact me and or Donna. If you contact me, don't contact Donna. If you contact Donna, go straight to her and don't contact me for volunteering to participate. Which, back to the election thing, Donna is running for president unopposed for the region. So that's something nice. I guess I shouldn't have said that, Jeff. I apologize. I think the email's coming out tomorrow, isn't it, Jeff? Something like that. Okay, never mind. Jeff is there. So,
hey, Mike, I'm sorry. I had to take a second to get the stormtroopers outside your door.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
they will be mustering shortly, and I wish you best of luck. Their phasers are not on stun.
Okay. Vaporizing, huh? Okay.
Ludicrous speed.
Yeah, I apologize. Can I announce, Jeff, publicly what's going on in D3 as far as the elections are concerned?
Talk to Donna. She's in charge of D3. She's on here.
No, well, she is, but she's not. So
okay, Mike, I have no problems. The email will go out next week on all the candidates. I'll ask you not to go through 5 and 7 and I'm just talking about. I was just going to mention Boyd. That's all. But you and Donna talk a lot. So if you want to talk about the candidates for 1 and 3, go for it. Okay. So
I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Donna. Do you mind if I announce that you're a candidate for president and running unopposed?
That I guess that's okay.
Okay, good.
Well, Jeff hasn't put the email out yet.
I know, that's what we were just talking about. Jeff has assembled the stormtroopers outside my door, and their phasers are not on stun, he said. So I inadvertently let that slip a minute ago because I To me, it's going to be public. Reggie, I'm glad you got in, buddy. I apologize I couldn't answer you with your text message. I'm in the middle of conducting the meeting, and I was going to get back to you in a second. So I'm glad you made it. The candidate that's running for director unopposed in D3 is Boyd Patterson. And Boyd, retired judge, Honorable Judge Patterson, is going to do a great job over in D3. Donna is going to be stepping up to be president of the region. I hope you guys will support everybody in that. I was hoping Boyd would be on here, but we're starting to read Boyd in, and we're coordinating everything with Boyd and going from there. So as part of the, and I'll tell you all that to tell you this, for the train show in January, we've typically, the two divisions put on 4 hours worth of clinics. So we've got 1 2-hour clinic by on geodesic modeling with geodesic foam with Craig. Oh gosh, come on.
Trevisi.
Thank you. And Craig Trebucci's doing a 2-hour clinic on modeling with geodesic foam. Dwayne is doing a clinic for us on modeling with decaling like a pro. Discount Model Trains has donated decals. We're going to be using the shells that we got from NMRA. And so it's going to be a hands-on clinic. All you got to do is show up, and we're going to talk to you about how to decal and how to put decals on like a pro. Boyd is also going to be doing a clinic on how to get the most out of your modeling time there. So the clinic that, and the reason this picture's up here, is decaling like a pro that Dwayne is going to be doing. I was recently making some 3D prints of containers for an intermodal train, and got the decals to put them on there. And one of the things that I remembered that is a good tip and technique, if you look at this particular model you see on the screen right there, that stripe that goes down the side of that engine, those long straight stripes like that are a bear to put on any model. I mean, just amazingly hard. But if you get them on there and you turn that whole engine or whatever you're modeling, let me turn it lengthwise and look down it. It helps you get that visual of the straightness of the decal. So you want to turn it and look down it this way, and you can make sure that decal stripe is straight. Okay. So that's my tip and technique. Dwayne, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk about some tips and techniques for a second.
Okay. Kind of keeping on the decaling theme, there's a couple of things that you also want to keep in mind, and we're going to cover this, like I say, hands-on when we get into the clinic. A lot of people like to gloss coat something first. I will admit it does slip and slide around a little better. It does help you position things a little better. If it's a wood model, I definitely like to clear coat at least the area that I'm going to be putting the decal onto. It's one of those situations where if you don't want to add an extra layer of paint, it's not mission critical, but it can help you. Once you get it into place, help it snuggle down, it'll, let it set up. There's several different products you can pick up that will help your decals settle into all the little nooks and crannies. And some of them are several stages worth. I like personally using one called Solvaset. It's a Walther's product now, and it's kind of an all-in-one type of situation. So I'll take that and put that over the decal and and then kind of help that snuggle in. Using a very, very sharp, brand new number 11, or even better, scalpel works even better. A little smaller curve, a little smaller blade, basically, and much sharper. you can actually come in and slice the decal and then hit it with the Solva set again and let it sink into all the little panel lines and everything else across a locomotive like what Mike had up there before. But one of the most important things, and I'm going to pass this on as my last tip, the number one thing I think with a bullet that most modelers get wrong when it comes to decaling locomotives, freight cars, whatever, is they'll get the decals on there, they'll get the Solva set on it, everything will settle into all the details, it'll hide itself around all the rivets, and everything's going to look like it's painted on there. And then they reach into their magic box of tricks and they start putting all the weathering stuff on it. And what you end up with then is a box car that looks like it's been out on the line for 10 or 20 years, but all the lettering underneath it looks like it was painted yesterday. The very first thing you do is take a paint color that is as close as you can get it to whatever the background is, thin it down into a very, very thin wash and spray that whole car. And it will fade that lettering into the background, and then you put your weathering materials on it. You want to age the lettering first, then make it dirty. And that's the biggest thing I can tell you. It's something that 99% of modelers don't do. And it's stunning the first time you do that and you see the difference and you put it up against one of the cars that you haven't done that way. And you look at the two of them, it's daylight and dark. I mean, I went through and re-weathered somewhere around 150 to 200 freight cars after I discovered this little trick. And I've still got some that I haven't done. In fact, I had a whole bunch of them out at the swap meet I was trying to sell off because I'm not using those anymore. It really makes that much of a difference. You're going to want to go back through and start touching up all the rest of your rolling stock. So bear that one in mind.
Dwayne, I need to step away for just a moment. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you if you don't mind. If you would go ahead and we've got Bruce Petrarca on the phone or on the line with us. You guys talk about tips and tricks, and I'm going to let Bruce. I think he's in the room. Maybe I see he stepped away from his camera, but I wanted to toss it. There he is. All right. Guys, Bruce Petrarca is joining us from Phoenix. And if you don't know, Bruce is the former author, contributor to Model Railroad Hobbyist. And he is, yeah, there it is. Thank you. I didn't even realize that was a shirt you were wearing, Bruce. And he is going to talk to us about DCC. He wrote a column, Mr. DCC. He's even got an MMR plaque that says Mr. DCC on it. So if you guys have DCC questions or things like that, now's a great time. We're going to start trying to do this on a monthly basis when Bruce can join us. So let's talk about this. By the way, he came in and spent a week with me here about, what, 3 weeks ago now, Bruce? Is that about right?
Yeah, right before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And Bruce came in and spent a week here. We had just a great time. Went around, saw several layouts, saw Mr. Packer's layout, saw Mr. Ross's layout, saw just a bunch of great stuff. Took him out to the Texas Western for a while. So anyway.
And by the way, you haven't sent me the list of people that we visited.
Okay, that's true. That's true. By the way, and I don't know, did you get a Christmas card from Greg McComas?
Did I?
Yes.
No.
Okay, you should have. It's probably in the mail. So he asked me for your address so that he could send you that. Yes, Jeff?
I said kind of like the check.
Yes, yeah, it kind of like the check. It's in the mail. Yep.
Or the package to Mossy.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. That's it. All right.
Well, I think I've got one.
That's a story in and of itself. So anyway, so I'm going to toss it over to you guys for just a second, and I'll be joining you in just a minute. Okay, go ahead, Bruce. I'll let you talk and take questions from the group. Okay.
Okay, happy to do that. What can I say? Had a good time there, and I feel like I'm part of Division I there, even though I'm almost 1,000 miles away. And And to get there, I only had to fly about 1,500 miles because I had to go through Salt Lake City, but that's a separate topic. We're talking about DCC stuff. And so if you guys have got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I can. If not, I'll see what I can do to find an answer for you. So let me just get a sheet of paper here. And I was doing some work on my computer, so I'm using my iPad here, and doesn't have the best angle of view, so I apologize. So anybody, whoever's got questions, let's deal with them. Everybody's DCC is working perfectly. Yeah, Jeff.
No, not working perfectly. Hey, have you had a chance to look at the new Digitrax throttle?
No, I haven't. I have to tell you guys, I sold Litchfield Station over 10 years ago. And at that point in time, I basically stopped getting any of the new stuff through them and, running through the store that I would see. And I haven't had it. I've heard, anecdotal things about issues. And there was a battery problem with the first production run. When you would insert the batteries, the battery case would come down and short out to something on the board, and next thing you know, you had smoke at least. So that I know that, and I heard some comments about some operational things, and quite honestly, that does not surprise me. My background with Digitrax has been that they don't do the world's best job of beta testing. Let's put it that way, and just move on. So sorry, I don't have a good answer for you, Jeff.
Oh no, I was liking the design because I use Digitrax for the other stuff, but all my stuff is the old UT4 and the original cab control. But I like the new design, so I didn't know if it was worth switching over or not. My feeling is personally, and again, this is all personal viewpoints, if you will. No problem.
But the point is, it's preferences. Miles and Fran Hale were doing a weathering clinic for Woodland Scenics at the Nationals, and she was talking about how she did something, and he was, she was at the microphone and he was doing the demonstration on the side, and she says, "Now I use this tool and this tool and this tool to do that." And Miles is kind of looking sideways at her, and she says, "Well, you got to understand, tools are a very personal thing. What I use and what I do and the way I do it is what works for me. And 9 times out of 10, Miles can't do it that way, but I can't do it the way he does it."
Yes.
And so, here's 2 master model railroaders whose background is in scenics, and they can't agree on the way to do it. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. It's a matter of preference in what you like and what you can do. That said, I think my 2 favorite throttles are the NCE Cab 6 and the UT4. And there's one aspect of each of them that I like significantly better than the other. But other than that, I like them a lot because they are simple to use. They're easy. You can almost put them in anybody's hands and have somebody figure out how to do it, other than maybe how to turn them on and off in the case of the NCE product, or the reversing is the place where they're different. And I prefer the UT4 with the toggle switch, which is positive and direct. And I always like to set those up so that when you throw the switch to the left, and you're standing in front of the fascia, the locomotive goes to the left, whatever that reverse forward, whatever that is. I don't handle it well. You throw it to the right to have it go to the left. So anyhow, that's my viewpoint.
I like the UT4 also, but that's it's one of those things. Like I said, it was more of a question that I have not seen anybody or I don't know anybody that has used the new Digitrax throttles yet, and just curious.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what his policy is, but I think it'd be a really nice thing for maybe perhaps borrow one from Wayne.
Okay.
Try it. See if he has one that he's going to use there in the store that he'd let you take home for an evening.
I can give it a shot.
I got a question. Yes. Is the old?
I don't take questions from California.
Oh, come on now. Yeah, I'll make sure I remember that when I send you your care package.
Oh God, if it's going to tick
something. Hey, yeah. I have an Digitrax old Chief DC 100 or DT 100, whatever it is, and it's the old simplex style. If I were to buy some new duplex equipment, are they compatible or not?
They are compatible as long as you buy the receiver.
Okay.
The UR92, I think, is the number. The duplex base unit, and the duplex base unit and the simplex base unit are compatible on the same system at the same time. So you don't. In other words, there's a smooth transition. If you have the simplex equipment and you're moving to duplex, which they're forcing you to do because they stopped making the simplex equipment. You buy the duplex receiver, put it on your layout, buy duplex throttles as you need them, and eventually, all the simplex stuff is going to be gone, and then you can take the simplex receiver off the layout.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, our club layout had both of them in function for a long time. Oops.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
When you pick yourself up off the floor there.
It's not me. It's my iPad. But
I see. I just figured you just slid right out of your chair. For those that are into DCC and don't know the difference between simplex and duplex, do you have a moment to explain the difference?
Yeah, I can. How to do this simply? That's the issue. Bad joke about simplex. Anyhow, simplex means that you're working with single directional communication. In the case of Digitrax, what that means is the throttle always talks and the base unit always listens. There's no time where the base unit sends any information back to the throttle. So what's being displayed on the throttle is what the throttle thinks is happening, not what is actually happening. So, and there's no feedback of I got that. There's no feedback at all. So the throttle says, okay, take locomotive 1, 2, 3 and go forward at 50%. And if that transmission gets jammed for whatever reason, locomotive maybe just sitting there looking at you, and you go, well, what's wrong with this locomotive? There's nothing wrong with the locomotive. The radio communication failed between the throttle and the base. With duplex, there is feedback. The base unit talks to the throttle as well as the throttle talking to the base unit. So you say go forward at 50%, and then the base unit reports back status that says, okay, I've set the command to go forward at 50% to the layout. That still doesn't say that the locomotive got it. There's no feedback that says, yes, the engineer does not have a way of saying back to the dispatcher, okay, fine, I got your transmission, I'm going. Doesn't exist short of what they call, layout feedback, which was a great idea. And lots of people have talked about it for about 15 years, and nobody has really done an easy enough job of it that people have adopted it. So it's out there in terms of Railcom, which is an NMRA spec, and all sorts of stuff. But that's beyond the question. The question is, the duplex is the new version of the Digitrax throttle system, and it talks both ways, and you get feedback. You can do a lot of things. You can do I believe you can do anything with duplex that you can with the throttle plugged in, whereas you cannot with the simplex. You can't even acquire a locomotive in the Digitrax system. with a simplex throttle. So you have to plug it in to acquire it. So that's the difference. Along the way, I'll put in the fact that NCE radio has always been simplex. They've never had it. It's always been duplex. They've never had a simplex system. So now we got everybody completely confused. Next question.
Fred, you said there's a question in the chat for you.
It's mine.
You see the question posted in the chat?
I can't do that at the same time.
Okay. Reggie poses the question, where do you like to purchase your pre-wired DCC LEDs?
Boy. Well, I think Litchfield Station still sells a bunch of them. When I ran it, we had them, and actually our preferred vendor for them at the time was Richmond Controls out of I think they're in Richardson, Texas. So
Houston.
I'm sorry.
He's out of Houston.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, but you know, so much has changed in that era. I bought a lot of them off of through eBay suppliers. You know, I don't have a real go-to situation to suggest.
Yeah, I had I'm working on my third one. This time I did first two were soundtracks, and I did LED packages through eBay. The vendor I use, I don't know what's going on. Maybe the mail system's slow and I can't get my LED packages anymore. So I'm looking for someone else. I like to do, I also do Amazon, but it just was so easy, have them pre-wired. And this one I'm going to do is going to be Decoder Buddy with the version 5 built-in resistors, because I want to do one. I just want to see what that's like. I'm just trying to find one that is just, I don't have to hassle with.
Yeah, I understand. And in today's world, especially the 2020 world, not many people are doing the supply chain thing as well as they were previously. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be a while before things smooth out. But I don't know of any, one point source for everything, Reggie. I'm sorry.
Yep. No worries. I'm going to try this Richmond Control. Here at Texas,
and he sells direct to the consumer. He also wholesales. So yeah, I think that's a good place to go. Also, Litchfield Station sells 3mm, not surface mount, but 3mm LEDs that have the resistor built in, which are really nice. Boy, you have to treat them like a light bulb and go. The only issue between that and a light bulb is you got to get the polarity right.
Correct. Yeah, I learned that on my first install.
And for what it's worth, Richmond Controls usually has a table there at the Plano Train Show.
Oh, sweet.
If he's going to be there, he's usually in the hallway out on the east wing.
Okay. Does he have a website? I can Google it.
Yeah,
it's Richmond Controls. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But, thanks, guys.
And he's I've never talked to him face to face, but I was a customer of his for years, and he just seems to be a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah, he really is. And if you ever get a chance to take his LED clinics, there's a lot of technical jargon in there, but they are well worth attending.
I am very interested in that. Yeah, I got a little brave on my last one, and I put forward and rear ditch lights on an SD70, XT60M. So now I'm getting brave. Okay. I'm thinking about other things. So
also, I wrote a column all about the anatomy of LEDs. If you go to my website, which is mrdccu.com, it's just Mr. DCC's University, mrdccu.com.
Okay.
And there's a listing there for the MRH columns, and it lists all the column by subject of the main column, and then any sidebars or whatever else are listed. And then in the front of that line, there will be a month and year date. And if you click on that date, it'll take you online to that column, and you can read it online.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You betcha. Dwayne?
Anybody else have any other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
I've got a Cato 23B that I was going to install a DCC in. I took the shell off and it's got a light board with an 8-pin connector. Does that mean the motor is isolated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, except some of those light boards have both a 9-pin and an 8-pin on it. The white 9-pin inline and the 8-pin dual inline. And if either one of those have anything plugged into it, the motor is not isolated. So make sure that there's not another.
There was a little board plugged into it.
Plugged into the 8-pin?
I assume it was a jumper board.
Yeah.
That means it's not insulated.
No, that means it is. You unplug that. It's as long as that's plugged in, the motor is not isolated. When you unplug it, it isolates the motor.
Then you plug the DCC into that plug, right?
Right. But just make sure there's not another white plug in there with something plugged into it. I doubt there will be, but just check to make sure.
It's been a week since I looked at it. I don't think there was.
Yeah, just check. Just check.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You bet.
All right, who else? Anybody else? Bruce?
No, I was saying goodbye.
Oh, don't leave. We just we're moving on to another topic, but thanks for helping there, Bruce. We appreciate it. All right, so every December, by the way, Q&A. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Anybody have any questions and answers? We kind of transitioned from the DCC question and answer to regular question and answer. Anybody have anything they're working on, the Q&A, that they need to ask questions about?
Mike, I'd like to bring up something if I could.
Sure, go ahead, Dennis.
Well, when I received notification that our Christmas gathering scheduled for this evening had been canceled, I jumped onto Perfect Potluck and put in there that the meeting had been canceled and all of this good stuff.
And by the way, I'm going to publicly thank you for taking that responsibility and doing that, even though it didn't come to fruition. Thank you for your leadership there, Dennis. That was really great.
You're more than welcome. But one thing I had failed to remember, and I guess that's a nice way of saying I just forgot, that Perfect Potluck sends out a reminder to all the people that have signed up. Well, these reminders showed up and I got a question about it, about whether it was canceled. Well, I did not have email addresses to everyone. So I emailed Mike and he immediately sent out a message to disregard the reminder from Perfect Potluck. But I went ahead and called all the phone numbers that were on there of people that were scheduled to bring something. And I just want to say that those phone calls, the messages, and the responses that I received back just re-emphasized what I already knew. We have a bunch of great people in District 1 and surrounding areas.
I couldn't agree more, Dennis. Thanks for sharing that. Everybody has been so supportive. I mean, we've built this, we together, and I mean that. We together have built this division into something that is strong, it's growing, there's a lot of momentum, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of progress being done. And I just couldn't be happier. And everybody is working together. It's a great division, and we've got a lot of good things going on. But Dennis, thank you for echoing that. That was great. I'm glad you had that experience. I couldn't be happier. If you guys know somebody that's in the division that's not out there, not participating with our meetings and stuff like that, reach out to them. You know, give them a call, give them a hand, and say, hey, you know, you don't know what you're missing, because we're having some really good meetings and some good stuff that we're doing. Even though it's not in person, we're still meeting, we're still exchanging ideas, we're still helping people become better modelers. So let's see. Jason, did I see that you had something you wanted to share with us? Is that, you were holding up something over there? Is that show and tell?
you were talking about trying to do straight stripes, and I think, what does that scale out? Those Amtrak stripes scale out to be a couple feet.
Yeah.
Try doing you something that's an inch.
Oh yeah, yeah, and those are tough, man.
Yes, very much so. This is actually a very much kit bashed Athearn car that I did some window rearranging on.
It looks great.
Yeah, this is a company or for our club here in Birmingham. This is our first business car. Y'all check out that's the underside of this. This is an Athearn car, so this is what I did.
Didn't have all that, I can guarantee you, because I built one of those.
Yeah.
I had to super detail a passenger car like that for my cars, and when I was working on my MMR, so I know exactly.
And it's funny you should say that, Mike. Jason, you need to have that judged, bud.
It has exactly. It got a 107. I think it got a 107.
Awesome.
So that's
I just popped. Also takes care of your passenger car requirement too. So good
yeah,
deal.
See, that's the carpet in there.
Great job. Really nice job. Really nice job.
Yeah.
So good job, Dwayne.
Sir,
do we have the opportunity to talk about AP stuff yet?
We have not, but there's nothing new to talk about because I've not gotten any paperwork from anybody.
Well, but there's something that we can talk about, Dr. Michael Ross. Where is Dr. Ross? There you are. Okay. He received a certificate. What certificate did he get, Dwayne? We hadn't presented it to him yet. I've got it, and I meant to bring it to the meeting. It's downstairs.
Structures, I believe, wasn't it, Mike?
It was structures, Mike?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll very briefly give you a show and tell. This is a flat car that we're starting. Hopefully it'll merit.
Hold it up a little bit higher.
And it, I think you can see, it's comes from plans in the March 1968 model railroader. Look, I actually, back in those days, I had them bound with my name. Boy, the times change, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
And wouldn't do that again. The sills are mortised into the end sills, and hopefully by next meeting, I'll have it more to show you.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
If I can say, what you showed me, what you showed there looked very much like a very nice jig for putting those cars together. And I'll tell you, just a hint to people, if you're going to do cars, build a jig and build a whole bunch of flats and start from there.
Yep. Yes, sir. And Bruce, thank you. I hope you got an email from me. Thank you for.
I did, and I wanted to get back with you because I got a couple questions for you.
I didn't realize I had such royalty there, but I copied the plans, expanded them to the O scale, took, spray adhesive, sprayed it, attached it to 0.02 styrene, and I've got a jig for the side sills, a jig for the end beams, and that's how I was able to drill for the truss rods and the notches for the mortise. Exactly right.
It takes a few minutes to build that, but once you do, building the cars is almost a slam dunk.
Yep.
And then save the jig to show to Dwayne and the other judges.
Yes,
absolutely.
Your jig will also help you get some points. Yeah, and jigs are pretty easy to build. The trick is to remember to build them in something that your adhesive won't stick to. Building a wooden jig to build wooden cars, not a good idea. Building a plastic jig for plastic cars, also not a good idea. I'm working on laser cutting some jigs in acrylic because NEK won't stick to it. Neither will glue for putting a wood car together. So I've had a couple of successes. I've had a couple of failures. I've got a couple of lessons learned, and I'm going to try it again maybe this afternoon. So we'll see how that one turns out. If it does, I'll let everybody know. But yeah, jigs are really, really important. We're going to spend probably not a whole lot of time talking about them in the flat car clinic because we're going to get a lot of ground to cover. But we will talk about how to put one together. And, if you're going to do more than one, build a jig.
And Mike, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
1 or 2 months ago, we had a clinic on making styrene look like wood.
Right. Yep.
And I just want to show, I took that to heart. This is a, you guys judged a scratch-built log cabin made Lincoln log style.
Right.
And it turned out so nice, I wanted to put it closer in where I can show it off rather than up in the back behind the yard. So I didn't want to do that again. So I bought a simple Plasticville log cabin. And here it is, built up, weathered with water-based washes. And I think it looks perfectly good.
Oh, yeah. That looks good. Great job.
Occasionally
Good job,
we learn
Mike.
something from these clinics.
Good job. Good job. Anybody else show and tell? Cole, what are you working on?
I am currently working on building a deck for a walkway in front of some buildings on my logging layout.
Well, I've been watching you during the meeting, and I saw you were doing painting and this and that and the other, and I just thought I'd ask the question.
Yeah, I was making some 3D stuff, 3D printed pallets, and then now I'm working on putting a logging walkway. Let's see, that will span in front of my mess hall and cook shack for my logging camp.
Gotcha. It looks great.
And then here later, I'm gonna plaster over the top of all the foam and start working on scenery back in this corner.
Okay.
So,
how big is your layout? Tell us a little bit about it.
Right now it's just 2 modules. I'm building them in modules. That way I can move it in the future if need be. And that way I can scenery as I go and have kind of a completed layout. But eventually it's going to go around the room, which is 10 by 16. So,
all right.
And then my plan is to do a lower level that is going to be an in-scale layout of the Fort Worth Western.
Oh, cool. All right. By the way, give us a little closer look at that area right there where the trees are. Guys, I want you to look at this, and I want to point this out on Cole's behalf, okay? Look at the dimension of those trees and how they fit to the buildings. And here's my point. I was a member of a club one time, and they said they wanted trees. And they wanted, and I said, I need a project. I need to do something for the club. What's a project? And the president of the club at the time said, we need trees. I said, okay, no problem. And I said, how many do you need? He goes, I need 1,000 trees. I said, no problem. I said, I'll have you 1,000 trees in a month. And I had 500 the next week, okay, using armatures made from boxwood hedge. If you guys have ever seen my tree making clinic, I'm a strong advocate of that. And so we were using boxwood hedge armatures and the polyfiber and Woodland Scenics fine foam, a ground cover to make trees. And so when I put them back out on the layout or brought them over, he goes, well, those are O-scale trees. And I said, no, they're not. He goes, what do you mean they're not? He goes, those are 4 times bigger than the locomotives and the buildings and everything. I said, have you walked outside and looked at the size of trees versus buildings? He goes, well, trees aren't that big. I said, yes, they are. He goes, well, they're making the trees on the rest of the layout look small. I said, that's not my problem. That's your problem because you started out with trees that were too small. Okay. I mean, think about it.
Now with in-scale trees.
That's right. That's right. So look at Cole's trees in relationship to the buildings and everything. And notice how tall they are. I'll get to you in just a second, Bruce. And notice how tall they are and how they relate. And that looks very real to me. I don't know about to you guys,
It
but
does.
it looks very real to me.
If you ever go to Houston, Texas, notice the trees if you go out in the real piney woods of Houston area.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely, Reggie. That's where I grew up over in East Texas. And trees, if you look down the right of way, and having worked for the railroad, when you look down the right of way, trees tower above the locomotives and the cars. They just tower above them. And we don't reflect that typically on our model railroads. Cole, you're doing a fantastic job of that. I wanted to applaud that and tell you and point it out to everybody how good those trees look and what you're doing there. So great job, buddy. Great job.
Thank you.
Bruce, I'm sorry, go ahead, Cole. What?
The trees take quite a bit of time. I mean, each tree I've got over 2 hours in for each tree.
Great.
And they look fantastic. Those look fantastic.
It's a wooden dowel that's been hand whittled down to a taper. And then each limb was floral wire that was hand twisted. And then come back in and paint a plaster grout glue mix on top. And then dry brush the color, 3 different colors into the trunks. And then hand brush glue on each tips of the limbs and apply static grass.
I'm going to tell you, Cole, we've got some spots. Would it be possible for you to give us a clinic on that sometime?
Yeah, sure.
So, Joe, I'm going to let you and Cole talk it out. Kind of put that one in your hip pocket, Joe. So if we need a clinic, we've got something here that would be a great one right there. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Would y'all like to see how he does that? I think that's an amazing thing. Yes? Okay. Well, I'm getting thumbs up everywhere. Okay. So Cole.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
The size of those trees is also relative to what era you're in. If you're modeling very early on, you probably have old growth trees, which are even bigger than that.
Great point, Daryl.
If this is in an area that has been previously harvested maybe 30 years ago, then those trees are going to be that tall again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
If you're modeling the early 1900s or something, there may be really big trees.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another thought there too is because I'm modeling East Texas back in 1930. So my vision is a pre-harvested piney woods. The trees are also spaced further apart as they would be today because they've been replanted than they would be in a natural forest.
Yeah, those will all be loblolly pine or longleaf pine.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Longleaf.
Great points, guys. And I want to point this out also. Many times people, when they're doing scenery, and I'm a scenery guy, and Dwayne knows it, and I've done scenery clinics all around. And I think about this. Think about the fact that what those guys were just talking about right there, and the depth of intellect they were applying to what they're modeling. Okay, they didn't just go out and grab some trees and stick them on there. They thought about era, they thought about time frame, they thought about area, they thought about the specific type of tree. All of these things tie in to set the scene correctly for what you're modeling on your model railroad. And it may not be, you may not have the desire to specifically model East Texas like Cole, or specifically model between Fort Worth and Houston like on the Texas Western, or whatever the case may be. But if you apply just a hint of that to your model railroad, it's going to make it a whole lot better and a whole lot more interesting to people when they come over. Does that make sense to you guys?
Oh, yeah. Well, and to that end, do yourself a favor. Go do a little bit of research. Figure out what kinds of trees grow where you're modeling, because they are all different shapes. They're all different colors. Give you an idea. I got that book at Barnes & Noble for $7 and some change off their Please Dear God Get It Out of Here rack. And this has some really neat information in here. Not only shapes of the trees, So from a modeling aspect, this book is gold.
Yeah, it is.
And it even tells you in there.
I didn't even know they made a book like that.
What parts of the country the different trees grow in, what, not just from a geography, but from a what plants grow well where kind of thing. The U.S. is divided into several different zones, and depending on what zone you're in as to what kinds of trees go. And there's so much of that feeds into what kind of industry is around your railroads. For example, if you model back east and you have a lumber mill like that and a lot of big trees growing on, anywhere where there's a lumber mill, they were cutting down a lot of hemlock. Well, anywhere where you're cutting down a lot of hemlock, there'll be a tannery really, really close to that sawmill because they'll boil the bark off those hemlock trees and they use that for tanning leathers. And it's one of those things, had no clue, found out reading a book about logging, and they're talking about logging back east. You won't see that out west because they're not cutting hemlock out there. So it's all about all these things that you can, with a little bit of research, depending on the area that you're modeling in and the time frame, can give your railroad a little more of a purpose.
That may be a good clinic for the future, Dwayne, giving your railroad a purpose. Wow.
I've got a little 20-minute clinic we can do anytime you want.
We've already got that plugged in, buddy. Put that in the name of that book in the chat, will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to. I'm doing this on an iPad for the first time, so we'll see how this works.
Okay, Bruce, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah. When Linda was doing clinics on backdrops, she was trying to figure out how to give guys or gals, give model railroaders a way of sizing the trees that they would paint in the backdrop and what scale and all of this. And I said, one of the best things you can do is to take a boxcar and stand it on end. And that's 40 or 50 feet for most people. And that should be a tree height, give or take.
Good. It's a good idea. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way, but box cars are 40 or 50. And then if you really wanted to get some tall pines, you get an 85 footer or a passenger car and put them up there. I mean, that's your distance. Mossy, what do you got?
Well, out here in California, our trees are a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Those redwoods. Yeah.
Yeah. And they get to
where you are.
Yeah. They get to about 360 feet tall. So in HO scale, you're looking at a 4-foot tall tree. And that's kind of hard to model.
That's true. Yeah.
I've actually got one that's about 3 foot tall, a trunk that I made, and it's going to take a lot of work to finish that sucker off because part of my modeling is the redwood forest, and I have to model some old growth trees. And they're a bugger to build. I got to tell you that. So size does matter, and if you build them to scale, you're gonna see a big difference in your modeling. It's going to dwarf your trains.
And here's the other thing. Okay, there is this term that we use in the model railroading called selective compression, Mossy.
Right, I know. But most people selectively compress their redwoods down to about 100-year-old tree when you got a couple 1,000-year-old trees out there, and
that's great.
Makes a big difference. We have a lodge up on the Klamath River, and adjacent to our property, the lumber company was cutting down the redwood trees, and they cut down a trunk. They cut down a 300-foot tall tree that was adjacent to our property. And just to give you a relative idea on the size of the trunk or the stump where it was cut, just above the bulge, was 28 feet across.
Wow.
That was one tree. They get huge. They're big. We have drive-through trees right next to the jet boat tour office. So
wow,
they're huge, absolutely huge.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Yes.
I remember reading a journal from one of my long-distant relatives. On my mother's side, you're either building churches or preaching in them, which kind of tells you where my gift of gab came from. But he had a note in his journal. He was one of the typically attended to build them, that they cut down a single old growth tree and built the entire church out of the tree. And they said
that's here in Santa Rosa, by the way, and that tree is still here.
Yeah,
or the church is still here.
Yeah, the stump was big enough that he said, I think it was like 8 couples could square dance on it.
Good grief.
It was huge.
Yeah, that tree there, that church still exists. It's here in Santa Rosa, California, and at one time it was the original Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. Because Robert Ripley was from Santa Rosa. Believe it or not.
Yeah. And on the subject of TV shows, it looks like Jim flew over Steven over there and hit him with an Anesta dart. There he is.
I'm betting, Steven, you're typically a lot more lively than this. I bet you're not feeling well this morning.
I had a Eurolift done 2 days ago, and I'm still recovering from it.
Bless your heart.
I figured you were under the weather, buddy. Much
under the weather a little bit.
many wishes to you to get better and feel better soon. Okay.
I'm feeling better, but still down there.
Okay. So one of the things, and I'm going to pause my video here for just a second so I can adjust something for you guys. One of the things that there was Cole was talking about, he's painting 3D stuff. The other day, and I mentioned this earlier, I was printing 3D containers. I want you guys to take a look at this. This is a 3D container that I printed on my 3D printer to go into a unit train. Now, this one obviously hadn't been painted or anything or decaled yet, but I've got a train over here on my layout, and what you're seeing is half the train. I had Trapper Kirkpatrick came over yesterday. We're talking about using this train. This is an intermodal train that I'm going to let him run at the Texas Western during the Plano train show. And some of the Texas Western guys, Mr. Corley, Daryl, Chris, I'm going to throw it out there in Cranda, some of you guys down there. I know that there's a limit on the train of 15 feet. This train is like 57 feet long. And we may put it out there just to see if we can run it. Okay. Chris is already going, no, X, no, can't happen. Just a show thing, certainly not anything for an ongoing thing. But Chris, you absolutely know that if there's more cars, that somebody's going to say, put them all on there. Let's see if we can run it. That's the way we are, right?
Release your inner N-scaler.
That's right. Especially if you're an N-scale. That's right. So,
hey, yeah. Mike, a little tip on that. So I was showing off some of my intermodal to some of my guys at, I work for BNSF Railroad. The first thing they said, you can't have mixed freight with the tanks behind the intermodal because you'll pop those couplers.
Oh yeah.
Tanks first and then intermodal. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you gotta be careful. But you don't have any mixed freight there.
No, this is all intermodal stuff. And the history on that is a gentleman, MMR, who's passed away by the name of David Davis, gave me a super detailed intermodal train. And then I already had an intermodal train. And between the two of them, it's 58 cars long. And I was missing some containers to go in there. I thought, what the heck? I'll try it. And so I ended up printing them on the 3D printer, getting some, and then decaling them. And I've showed them to several people. And quite honestly, once they're finished, you have a very difficult time telling them from store-bought, don't you, Dwayne?
Yeah, they look real good.
So they came out very good. And if you guys notice that those intermodal cars and loads for those things, typically anywhere from $8 to $25 each for those store-bought intermodal cars. After printing and decaling and paint, I've got like $2.67 in them. So yeah, that was the difference. And if when they're rolling by on a in a double stack, you can't tell. I mean, you can't tell. And I was really pleased with it. So that's one of the things that I wanted to show there on the show and tell.
Hey, Mr. Mackey, your problem you're going to have at the club is the diamonds there at the main tower. There is, once you go around on the east side, you only got a certain amount of distance till you hit yourself in the back. So, yeah, well, until we add on in a few years, you'll just you can only go. We've actually tested the limit on that, and you can just barely miss it. But if it's too long, you'll just run into the back of your train.
I understand. Well, we may have to start the train somewhere else and let it not have to cross that diamond.
You know, Rich mentioned something right there.
Dwayne jokingly told me the other day when he first saw the train, he said, you know, if you add just 2 more cars to that, you can block 3 towns instead of just 2. You know?
That's right. You know, Reggie just mentioned something right there that's kind of important. And a lot of guys are approaching this from I worked for the railroad kind of background. Most of us didn't, you know. But one of the things that a lot of guys typically get wrong too is they'll put open loads right in front of a caboose. Never put an open load, you know, right in front of the caboose. You never want to have anything that have a chance of flying out of that car and then leaving a couple of your crew back there to catch it.
Exactly. They said if you want to put tanks in a mixed intermodal unit, you better imaginary put them as empty. Because they'll pop the frames on those wells and knuckles. I was like, man, didn't know that. Okay. Yep.
All right, guys.
We learn.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I posted a little PDF that I had done for Texas Western. I did research on East Texas pine trees. Going back to that for a minute. It's down in chat if anybody'd like to have it.
Appreciate that. I saw that you put that in there. Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. That's great. All right. So, guys, as you know, anybody else have anything for show and tell? Any more Q&A? All right. So every December, we've been having our Christmas party. Everybody knows that we have that. And one of the things that we do at the Christmas party is pass out awards that for significant contribution and merit awards to different people who've earned them through the year from our division, and to recognize outstanding what's the word I'm looking for? Contribution to the success of the division. The first thing I want to point out is I've been waiting a year to pass out the first award, and I'm going to pass it out first because of the time frame involved. Every year we pass out the John Garfield Award to a person who is giving outstanding service and volunteers to the organization and to the division. So this person was not at the meeting last year due to some other circumstances that called them away from our area. But I hope that you will allow me and you will join me in honoring Joe Lysing as the recipient for the 2019 John Garfield Volunteer Award. Joe, I've had this award here at my home for the last year, waiting for the opportunity to present it to you at the December Christmas party that I was going to do it this year. This is the best I can do for you. I can't give it to you in person, but it's here and I will make sure that it's delivered to you. and you've got it in your hands. But you've done amazing work as our program manager. You put all this together. You took it on a wing and a prayer with a promise from me that I would assist you. And you said, you know, I really don't have a lot of experience. I don't know all the contacts, but brother, you've done a fantastic job. You put great programs together. And I just want to thank you for what you've done. And I want the division to be able to recognize you accordingly for your work and everything you've done. Love for you to say a couple of words, if you don't mind, Joe.
I certainly appreciate that. I'm certainly humbled by it. I would like to say that as we first spoke, I wasn't sure that I was up for the challenge, if you will. And certainly with your support, have been hopefully able to fulfill the expectations of the job. I will tell you that it has been very enlightening. I've got to meet and visit with a lot of great people, learned a lot about the hobby, and it's certainly been a blessing for me, and I thank you all.
Great job, and congratulations, Joe. It's well-deserved and well-earned. The next award that I want to go to, and if I can bring this up here, hang on a second. Let's see. I need to get that one out of here and get that one out of here. And let's see here. I want to bring, well, let me get that, minimize that. The next person I'd like to recognize is the 2020 recipient of the John Garfield Volunteer Award. This person has put forth countless, and it says this on the plaque, and it's just really fitting here. Countless hours of time giving us one of the best newsletters that's ever come forth out of the organization. And at this point, I want to recognize Chris Galvin for your work as the editor of the Whistle. You've done that since its inception. You've done it every month, with the exception of the last couple of months when we finally got you an assistant. I've been working on that for a long time, but we finally got you an assistant there. And so I want to recognize Chris's work on the Whistle. I'm going to tell you something, guys. If you look around other divisions, other regions, the work that he does, not only for our division newsletter, but for the Texas Western newsletter, guys, these are superior publications that I will stack up against anybody in the around the world as far as our hobby is concerned. They are professional looking. They are amazingly put together. Chris has been, his patience with me and getting my submission in at the 11th hour for the deadline has been remarkable. And Chris, I just want to publicly thank you and recognize you for everything that you've done, and let you say a couple of words if you don't mind. So unmute yourself and you can go from there.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that award, Mike. It's been a pleasure to work with you and everybody else in the division. And it is a wonderful thing to have David Hager on as a helper with the newsletter. Yeah, I think people don't, I know my wife often gives me a hard time because I spend a lot of time on these newsletters. I generally, you know, it's maybe 15 to 20 hours a month, maybe. Usually it starts, you know, I have to do the next newsletter. I'll start changing out the dates and figuring out where the calendar things that are coming up. The articles are really what makes the newsletter. So if others out there want to write things, it's a big plus to the overall, you know, readership, if you will. When Mike Corley did his series on the Frisco Railroad of a year or two ago, that was a nice addition to the newsletter. We've had lots of other folks that have contributed to that. But I really do appreciate the recognition, Mike. And yes, I know it's I hate to always have to ask you for your article, but
I hate you having to ask for it, because I tell you, I've just got so many balls in the air I'm trying to juggle, and it always sneaks up on me. But I try to do good. Sometimes I fail, and I apologize. And
oftentimes it's just the nature of our, especially this year, things have been changing quite a bit once we get closer to the meetings themselves, and so that's just part of the job, I guess, if you will. So I appreciate the recognition, Mike.
Everybody give Chris a round of applause and give him that feedback that he deserves, because he does a fantastic job for us. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
The last award that I want to share with you guys, there was a member that is, the last award, it's another award that we're doing, and then we've got one more that we're initiating this year. There was a member that passed away a couple of years ago that was always a stalwart of our organization here in Division I, and he had a fantastic layout based on the Kansas City Southern. His name was Jim Norwood. Jim was always there. He always opened up his layout for layout tours. Anytime that there was an opportunity, you could pick up the phone, you could go over, you could call, and his layout covered the entire second story of his house. Every time one of his daughters would move out, he would absorb that room and take over and go from there. And when he did, he had an amazing KCS layout. Jim passed away. I wanted to honor him and initiate a new award at that time when he passed away that recognized outstanding service to our division for the year. Unfortunately, the person who is deserving of this award this year is not on our call today because he had to be called away for some other duties. But I would like to recognize David Crumpton, who is the new president of the Texas Western, the largest 100% club in our division, and all the work he's doing to help promote the division. He's not only the president of that club, but he's also working with Mike Ross on membership. And every single month that we have renewals and everything, David pitches in and works with Mike Ross to help facilitate renewals and stuff like that. It's absolutely great. I think David's very deserving, and I hope you guys will pass along your appreciation to David for all he's doing to help promote the division and the NMRA in our area. So thank you, David. I hope you come back and you can watch this video a little bit later. Finally, this year, we lost a tremendous friend. The old speaker's trick there. If you swallow liquid, you can't start crying. We lost a tremendous friend earlier this year in Leo Paletti. Leo was absolutely an amazing guy. Great friend to a lot of us. And one of the most fantastic layouts that I've ever seen in my life. Luckily, he's only about a mile from where I live now, 1.5 miles, 2 miles, something like that. But during the 2016 convention, and I'd like to share this story. Charlie Getz was our keynote speaker, and Charlie was the president of NMRA, and Charlie goes around the world literally in that capacity, and he sees all the best layouts. I mean, if you're going to take the president of the organization to a layout, you don't take them to a scrub layout. You're going to take them to the best, right? I mean, that's just the way it happens. I called on Leo and Lori and asked them if they would allow us to come by privately and let Charlie see their layout. We pulled up in the driveway and got out. And as we got out of the car, I turned to Charlie. I said, Charlie, what you're about to see on a 1 to 10 scale is probably about a 12 or a 15. I just want to let you know that up front. He goes, really? I said, yep. And he probably thought I was full of crap. And And at which point he walked in the room. He was greeted by Leo and Lori. They had special gifts for him, as Lori always does when there's a visitor coming. She always makes something special for the people. He walked around the layout, and Leo was telling him more about the layout, and Lori was too, and all of the detail and everything. And if you've never seen the Black Bear and Bayou Railroad, I urge you to look it up on the internet, because you're going to see some amazing stuff. Just go out and do a Google search on Black Bear and Bayou. And so after about 20 or 30 minutes of walking around there, Charlie came back over to where I was standing out of the way, and he goes, "Mackie, you're full of crap. You are full of crap." And I kind of looked at him oddly, and he said, "On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 35. That layout is that good, folks. I mean, it's just beautiful. We lost Leo earlier this year. And yes, Jason, it's still intact. And Lori is going to continue to have the layout operating and things like that. But we've got to let her have her time to get past the loss of her husband and everything. And unfortunately, 2020 is biting Lori again, because Leo's mother is now in hospice and with cancer, just like Leo was. Different strain of cancer, but she's in hospice and lives right down the street from Lori, and it's fallen upon Lori to kind of help her. Lori's beside herself. I mean, it's almost overwhelming for what she's having to deal with. But when things get back to some sort of a normalcy for her, there'll be operating sessions over there. She's going to continue. She's going to finish her MMR. This is the thing she's told me. She's staying in contact. So yes, that layout lives on, and we're delighted that. So in that regard, I initiated a new award this year, the Leo Palladi Award. For Leo was an amazing modeler, and he made fantastic structures and loved to model. And he, in his first time, he went to the contest room. When we finally talked him into it, Dwayne, what did he take out of there? He and Lori together, what did they take out that year in Houston?
I don't remember, but it was several of them.
They had like 2 or 3 different models. They won 2 or 3 different categories. Lori got the Linda Little Award. Can you tell about that for a second, Dwayne?
Yeah, there was a modeler. She was from the Houston area, and she entered a model and it merited and did really well at the contest room. And she was just so excited that she had gotten something, to merit and everything, and was a really nice lady, really good modeler, and was really learning and expanding her skill set. And we saw her all at the convention, and a month or 2 later, she got Rashod and feeling too good. A few weeks after that, she went to the doctor, and a few weeks after that, she was gone. In her memory, the division down there offers up the Linda Little Award to any female modeler. It's only available to win it once, and it's for any female modeler in the room who's never won it before, with the highest scoring meriting model in the room. And we've been really lucky. We've given that out now. It's kind of weird. We'll go 3 or 4 years and not have anybody to present it to, and then we'll go on a run. And I think we've given it out the last 2 or 3 years in a row now. So it's good to see. It's good to see the interest.
And our division has won it 2 of those 3 times.
Yeah. So it's a neat little award they give out, and it's wonderful to see her memory live on. And I was really excited when Mike called and asked me about adding this plaque to this year's build. I think it's a great idea.
So at this time, I'd like to honor Dr. Michael Ross with the first Leo Palladi Award for outstanding achievement in modeling during the year of 2020. presented by Division One of the Lone Star Region of the National Model Railroad Association. The work that and the accomplishments that he's been able to show and everything in the past year has been outstanding and very deserving. And Mike, we appreciate what you're doing, how you're promoting the hobby and everything. Just keep up the good work and finish out that MMR. I don't think you've got much left to finish out your MMR. So share with us a couple of words if you don't mind.
A surprise and a bit speechless, but thank you one and all, and please come by and visit when we can all do it safely. You know, to be honored by your local friends is sometimes is more significant than getting some national award. So I just, again, thank you. Total surprise to me. I will hang it proudly.
You know, and yeah, that's great, Don. Give that round of applause to Dr. Ross, if you would, everybody. He deserves it. He does a great job. There's several of you that are on the cusp and have if you can just kind of pick up the pace a little bit. I know you're going to finish out your MMR. Next year's award is going to be tough because I know several of you are right on the edge of getting that. I can't wait to see what you're going to put forth in the next few months as far as structures and things like that. So congratulations again, Mike, very deserving, and keep up the good work. You only lack cars to finish out your MMR. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'll comment very briefly on Leo. Leo came by one day, I guess he and Lori, and they came by to help me with some scenery. And Leo brought a structure that he had built. What a wonderful, wonderful man he was.
Yep.
And that's going to be proudly displayed on the layout.
Excellent. Excellent. One of the things that Dr. Ross is being humble about, and I want to tell you this, I didn't even know this until I walked and looked in his hallway. The NMRA gives out awards for length of tenure of time in the continued membership. Mike, what does that plaque on your wall say? How many years?
I think it says 50, but it's getting close to 60 now.
60 years of being in the NMRA. Isn't that amazing, guys? Yeah, that deserves a round of applause, Barry. You're right. Sure does. Sure does.
When I was a teenager, Bob Bast, who was the Mike Mackey of the time, Bob ran the NMRA from a basement, and he had some sort of lithograph machine, and he had his only railroad. The only thing he had time for was a 4x8 sheet with 2 trolleys circling around. He used to pick me up and take me to the division meetings up at in Ohio. So that.
At what age? How old were you then?
Teenager. I was a mid-teenager.
Well, we're glad you're here. I'm so glad you're a part of our division. You're a tremendous asset to us and to everybody here. Thank you for all that you do for the division. Thank you for your modeling work. Guys, when we get an opportunity, we may all get together and go over to Mike's house for a tour of his layout. It's going to be on the 2023 convention tour. And Bruce, what do you think? Is it a deserving layout to be on the layout tour?
No, I don't think so. I think you ought to dump it. But
oh, really? Okay, all right.
But point I had a point I wanted to make here. You should point out to people it does not take 50 years in the NMRA to get your MMR.
That's true. That is very true. That is very true. In fact,
no, all joking aside, it was an amazingly complete railroad, Mike. You should be happy. You should be proud. And I'm sure you are.
Bruce, is there any question that he deserves this award?
No.
None whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad
And this, during the week I was out there, we visited 10, 12 layouts, something like that, around North Texas. And there were 3 that I walked in and I looked at and I said, these people should be MMRs. And unfortunately, none of them were. And so, and Mike's was one of them. So I'm glad you're close.
Yep. So, which brings up the next thing. And Bruce, thank you for the segue. It doesn't take 50 years to get your MMR. And I'm about to introduce somebody to give our clinic. He has been a member. He's been a modeler for years and years and years, since he was a teenager. But he's now just joined the NMRA of recent. And he's kind of like a lot of us, never really realized why he needed to be a member of the NMRA. And started talking to him, and he kind of saw some fellowship there and started doing some things. And I'm going to turn it over to him and let him talk about this, because I don't want to steal his thunder. But at this point, this young man is he's been in the organization for a very short period of time, but we started doing a little inventory of his accomplishments. And if everything plays out the way I'm expecting, he'll probably have his MMR by March or April of next year, because he's got that much going on and he's that good, amazing modeler. At this point, please welcome our clinician on demystifying scratch building, Rich Mossholder. Rich, take it away.
Thanks. I hope everybody's doing well this morning, Mike. That was awfully kind of you to pump it up like that, because I don't really feel that I'm that good after seeing a lot of the work that's being displayed in your division. I feel kind of like an average guy. You guys are phenomenal out there, and I almost feel like the clinic that I'm offering is wrong for this group. It's basically a beginner's guide to scratch building, and from what I've seen, you guys are phenomenal. Everything that I've seen on your division has been outstanding. And so I'm gonna start the clinic now. And if you guys have any questions about what you're seeing or anything like that, please either throw it in the chat or just speak up, because I'd like to answer your questions.
And Mossy, I'll try to monitor the chat for you, so that you can concentrate on that. And if somebody pops something into the chat, then if you'll allow me, I'll kind of ping in and ask the question on behalf of everybody. Okay.
That sounds great. So a little bit about myself, excuse me, real quick. As I've said earlier, I live in Santa Rosa, California, and have lived here most of my life. I was in the Air Force, and I was in Desert Storm quite a few years ago. Mike says I'm a young man, but I don't feel it anymore, because I just turned 50. So I'm on my way over the hill.
Hey, Mr. Corley. Oh, Mr. Corley stepped away for a second. Y'all were there together. And in fact, there's probably several people on our group that were at Desert Storm. And thank you for your service again.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And, you know, it was my honor to do it. It was the easy one. The guys who are in now, that are in Iraq and Afghanistan and places in the Middle East, they're having a hell of a time. And I really, my heart goes out to those guys, because they're dealing with a lot of crap that I never had to deal with. So a little more about that. I'm the senior vice commander for our local VFW post here in, well, it's in Sebastopol, California. And we try and do a lot of good things with that. I'm trying to get these guys to let me use the building to put on a train show, but the Center for the Arts, who shares the building with us, is not so amenable. My personal railroad is the Silver Tongue Southern. It's a freelance HON3 layout, measures about 16 foot by 56 foot in my basement, which I dug by hand, one bucket at a time. I don't recommend that to anybody. Hire somebody if you can. It's well worth the money. Anyway, excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. Demystifying scratch building. It's a beginner's guide. So we're just going to move right along here. Why isn't this working now? There we go. Why scratch building? Well, a lot of times manufacturers don't build the models you want. There's oftentimes there's not enough interest in a model. So you got to kind of build it yourself. A lot of times the manufacturer's buildings that they put out, they suck. So you're going to want to build something yourself so you don't have to deal with their crap. And you also get the satisfaction of building something yourself. You know, Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes you get what you need. And if you need it for your railroad and nobody makes it, make it yourself. And a lot of you guys out there are old hats at this, but there's probably a couple guys that are afraid to get started. And if you say you can or you can't, you're right. You just have to convince yourself that you can do it. And I know a lot of you out there will probably agree with that. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to just get a mental block, and that's going to be the end of it. So where do you start? Find yourself a good suitable subject. You know, if you want to build a structure, or if you want to do freight cars, rolling stock, locomotives, whatever, find a suitable subject. Get your information together. Figure out if you're going to do prototype or freelance or anything like that. The structure you see here is the Venado Post Office. And it's a little tiny building that was used as the post office for a logging community up in the redwoods. And you can see the little tiny redwoods in the background because that's all new growth. This building was in service from 1921 to 1941. And after that, it became somebody's shed on their property. This is the subject of the structure that I built here. And although my structure doesn't look exactly like it, you know, it's as close as I can get. This is an HO scale structure, and every single one of those shingles was handmade from stripwood. The structure now, it doesn't exist. A few years ago, I went to build it, and I took drawings, I took photographs, made measurements, worked it up in AutoCAD, and then my computer crashed, the hard drive crashed, and I lost everything. And I had meant to get back up there and take pictures and more drawings and all that. And the problem was, I just never got up there to do it. So I had printed out on a piece of cardstock with my laser printer the footprint of the building. And as I was going through some boxes a while ago, I came across it and I set it out and I put it out there so that I could build it. When I started talking with Mike Mackey and Dwayne about joining their Tuesday night group and joining the NMRA and working towards my MMR, I thought this would be a good project to start. So the Monday I started building it, a fire had broken out way up in the forest. And I started building this on Wednesday. This thing was reduced to ash. And I had planned on Friday or Saturday driving out there to get get more pictures and make drawings of it. There's only about 5 photographs of this structure anywhere that I've ever seen online. And so this is the one photo I had to work from to get where it's at now. I figured that once I had it judged, if it didn't merit, then I was going to burn it and submit the ashes and maybe get points for prototype. So, well, anyway, you can work from photos, you can work from drawings, make your own plans, published plans like Michael was doing with his with his flat car. That always works nice. And just carry on from there. Materials. You got to find what materials will work for you. And you can get them anywhere. Wood, cardstock, styrene, metal, paper, plastic, whatever you want to use, you can use it. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be store-bought or manufactured. You can use whatever you want. I have a friend, and his name is Peter Lachlan, and this is his hobby shop right here. He has a box of cardstock and paper tubes and popsicle sticks and tongue depressors and paint stir sticks. And he builds the most amazing models from garbage, essentially. You can use anything. And you can get it from anywhere. It can be from the hobby shop. It can be a hardware store. You can pull the stuff out of your yard, out of the trash can, raid your kid's toy chest, packaging, household items, and use objects that have the shape that you need. That's the important part. You can find anything anywhere and use it as a tool or some materials to make what you need. Jason Jensen is a modeler who has a pretty prolific Facebook presence, and he also has a YouTube channel where he illustrates how he builds his models. And his website has been an absolute boon for me, just in tips and techniques, because he'll take you through and build the entire model from start to finish with all of his techniques. And Jason is an artist by trade. And his most recent YouTube post or video was he took a standard plastic flashlight and turned it into a lighthouse. And it's extremely effective and believable. So you can use anything out there if it has the shape you need. It doesn't matter what the material is. You just modify it to fit your purpose through sanding, cutting, filing, or whatever. I'm going to show you some photos here of before and after. Well, this one is not before and after, but this is Peter Lachlan built this, and it was a cardboard tube, some cardstock for the planks, carpet thread for the hoops, paper bits for the turnbuckles. Timbers were made from paint stir sticks. The shingles were from a paper bag and aluminum foil for the cap on the roof. And the rivets you see in there were embossed with a ballpoint pen. I think it cost him about $1.50 to build this thing. And it's a pretty darn believable water tank. Really nicely done. And here's another thing that Peter did. The structure you see on the left and the right are the same structure, and that's in construction process. The only materials he used on this are listed right there on the screen. He made all of the siding from cardstock, and he just got his little paper cutter and he just started cutting little strips, and he glued them on one at a time. If you look at he drew it up on, what was it? Not Corel, but he had a drawing program that he used. And I don't remember which one it was, but he drew out the basic shapes of the walls and put lines on them. And those lines are where he glued his clapboard to, so he got everything straight. The structure you see on the left is the completed version, and it is, I've seen it up close, and you would not believe how good it is. It's unbelievable. And this is all stuff that you can do with household junk. I think the only thing that he used on this that was commercial were Tichy doors and windows. And I think total he's got $12 into that whole model right there. So it doesn't have to be an expensive endeavor. And anybody can do this sort of thing. The freight car you see on the left is one that I scratch built recently. And that's made entirely out of walnut, styrene, and trucks and couplers were by Microtrains. And of course, commercial rivets. Pretty simple. It was a design that I took from Tichy makes some small ore cars. I don't remember I think 20-ton ore cars or something like that. And they're wooden, but they're too big for HON3. And I've always wanted a fleet of those. So I decided to try and scratch build it. And I built the frame, built the sides, everything. It's all made out of walnut. I prefer using walnut strip because you don't have to do a lot to it to get a good weathered look. It's stronger than basswood. It doesn't have the same smell to it. Over time, basswood gets that stink, you know, that mildewy kind of smell. If you ever opened up an old kit, you know what I'm talking about. And it's stronger. So you're using a much harder wood for it. It drills and taps nicely, and it's got good grain structure, which is why I prefer to use that. The picture you see on the left is a stone wall casting that I'm using. I'm using 2 halves of that to build a mold to make bridge piers. Mike Mackey asked me to make him some bridge piers. So that's the starting point for that. So again, another type of material that you use for scratch building. And it just makes life a lot easier for you when you can find things that are already done. Maybe shave it to the shape you want, fuse them together, put a little plaster on the side, carve in the rocks, and you're good to go. Styrene. On the left, you'll see the little cab interior. That's for an Athearn Hustler locomotive that I converted to HON3, and that's the cab interior for it. There's it's a commercial kit for the cab interior, but the floor and the bulkhead, that's all scratch built from just basic styrene. On the left, you'll see the board by board construction for the Venado post office that I built. And that is, again, all out of walnut strip. I get my walnut strip from Model Shipways, which is a company that does model ships. And they have lots of different types of wood. So you can get cherry, mahogany, walnut, teak, all kinds of stuff to represent different parts of ships. But I find, as I said before, I find the strip wood material from them is superior to basswood. It cuts better. It's cleaner. You don't get all the fuzz or the smell. Tools. It's important to have good tools. It's important to think about safety. Wear your safety glasses, wear gloves, wear a mask if you need to, if you're sanding with power sanders and there's dust going around. If you're sanding exotic woods like Padauk or something like that, you don't want to breathe that stuff in because that's gonna cause some problems later down the road. Damn phone. Sorry about that. Make sure your tools are sharp. That's the other important part. Dull tools are just going to cause problems. Apologize for the phone. If you have a dull tool, you're going to have to use more pressure to make your cuts, and that extra pressure could lead to a slip, which could lead to you needing to go get some stitches. So make sure you have good quality tools. Make sure your tools are sharp. Dr. Ross, I'm sure you know about having good tools as a physician, or if you're a physician. I'm not sure if you're a physician. Mike called you a doctor, so I'm assuming you are. Having good surgical grade tools makes a huge difference just in the fit, the finish, and the feel of the tool and the ability to use it in your hand. My advice is to buy the best quality tools you can at what you can afford. And you'll never go wrong with that. They'll last you longer and they're better, and your modeling will be better as a result of having good quality tools. Get yourself a set of calipers and a scale rule, maybe a micrometer if you need it. That would fall more under a specialty tool. Some good steel or brass block weights to hold things in place. There was a good bit of discussion earlier about jigs, and that is probably one of the most important tools that you can create for yourself. Having the ability to hold everything together and keep it together so that it doesn't move when you're gluing or painting or whatever, that's really important. You gotta have that together. Some of the other tools that I use, I have an arbor press, and I use that quite a bit if I'm turning a standard gauge locomotive into a narrow gauge locomotive, and I need to press the axle through so that it's true. There's other ways of doing it, but if you want to keep something true and straight where the axle is perpendicular to the wheel, you're definitely going to want to have something like an arbor press. If you see the little piece of steel that the axle and the wheel are sitting in, that's a type of jig, and it holds the wheel in place and perpendicular, and the axle is pressed through a hole, which keeps it aligned and perpendicular to the wheel. Things like squares and clamps and so forth, that's all extremely useful stuff, and it should be a basic tool in your toolbox. Let's see what we got here. Adhesives. There are a million different types of glues and adhesives out there. Anything from the basic Elmer's school glue all the way up to 3M high strength contact spray cement. This is a small selection of my glue that I have that sit on my workbench. Takes up quite a bit of space on the workbench, but that's okay. If you're gluing something like Delrin, which is that slippery mechanical plastic that people like to use, engineering plastic that people like to use for trucks or couplers, they're all made with Delrin. And if you've ever tried to glue anything to Delrin, you're going to have a hard time because it does not accept adhesives. There are a couple of adhesives that do work with it, however, and one of those is, if you look in the kind of the middle of the screen there, you'll see the bottle with the purple cap on it and the brown label. That is IC2000, and it is a type of super glue that has the ability to bond Delrin. You will have to scuff the surface of the Delrin a little bit to get it to glue together, but it will adhere. And it is a type of super glue, so you can use an accelerator with it if you want it to glue quickly. The other, you can see next to the can of the 3M spray glue down there at the bottom, that's micro weld. And that is also something that you can use to bond things like Delrin. I use a lot of different things. If I have to put something together and I need to tap it, I'll use JB Weld, because you can mix that together. It's strong, and you can drill and tap it, and it'll hold the threads. Tacky glue works great if you want to put windows in something and you just need a little tiny dot. I apply that with like a straight pin. MEK, methyl ethyl ketone, is probably the best adhesive that I have found for styrene. It is a welding type agent. If you're going to use it, wear gloves and wear a mask, because MEK is skin permeable and it will go straight to your kidneys. It's a nasty stuff. It's got kind of a sweet smell. It's in all of your model plastic welding cement, so that even the tester tube cement, it's in that. It works really, really well, but it's really nasty stuff. So ventilate the area you're working in, because that is not good for you. Another little thing about safety. Applying adhesives. Apply it sparingly. Use as little as you possibly can. The more adhesive you use, the more chance you have to put blobs on your model. And I know if anybody's out there working on their MMR, they know all about glue blobs. Dwayne can tell you all kinds of wonderful stories about contest rooms where guys have glue blobs all over their models, and they think they've got a great model, but they don't They overlook those things. Apply your glue with a toothpick or a straight pin or something like that. Just get the minimum amount you need to hold those items together. Let it dry thoroughly before you even move it. Once you move it, it's going to change. It's going to change your model, and you want it to be nice and true and square. Construction techniques. Most important lesson that I have learned is that patience is a virtue. And in modeling, I am not a very virtuous person. I have a tendency to try and rush through things because I'm excited about it. Slow down, relax, take your time, do it right. Have a good, clean, organized workspace. You need good lighting on your workbench. And if you're building a model and you're painting it there, make sure the lighting on your workbench matches the lighting in your layout room. That is key. You can build a beautiful car and it'll look fantastic on your workbench, and you take it into the layout room and all of a sudden it's purple because the black doesn't really look black anymore. Again, make sure you have sharp tools. Those are absolutely critical. You're going to get a much cleaner cut. You're going to have much better success in that. Secure the part you're working on. Always secure the part you're working on. It will make your modeling a lot better, and you'll be able to complete it with much more success. Steady your hand. So when you're holding an object, you want to steady your hand, because if you got both hands moving around, it's not going to work very easily. So make sure you can steady your hand when you're actually working on something. And use slow and deliberate movements. There's no need to go fast for anything unless you're using super fast set super glue, and you better be quick with it. I don't like super fast sets. Make sure you can get your parts together correctly before the glue dries. Mike asked me to tell you a little bit about this track work here. And it kind of goes back to some of the materials and things like that. That is a future clinic that I want to give, down the road, but it's about how to make old beat up backwoods style or abandoned track. The ties come from a Dawn redwood tree in my backyard, and they're just twigs. I like to sand them down flat, glue them down with epoxy so they stay. And then once the twig is attached and dry, then I go over it with a block sander and plane them down flat and attach my rail. It gives it a nice look. It's kind of fun. Doesn't cost you anything but time. So you go out and you get your twigs. Take a standard tie with you that you want, and then you can use that as a measuring guide when you're out clipping ties in the woods or in your backyard or wherever you happen to be. And they don't have to be uniform. You can do a lot with it. Does anybody have any questions? I should have been asking that before.
Right now, there's nothing in the chat, but Don Hummel says clean, organized. Hell no, it's blasphemy. You can't have a workbench.
Well,
and Don, I agree with you. If you could see my desk right now, you'd understand.
If you could see mine right now.
I think an organized desk is a sign of a sick mind. So
it is.
I'll let you, go from there. Dwayne, I've seen your workbench from time to time, and you've got stuff around it. However, the place where you're working, I will admit, is always pretty clean and accessible, and it's free from immediate clutter. Let me put it like that.
But it doesn't seem to make any difference how big your desk is. You always end up working in about a 12 to 15 inch square area. I was stunned. I tripled the size of my modeling bench, and yet I still find I'm working in this one little itty bitty corner.
Yep.
Funny thing, I have in a section of my layout, I have a workbench for modeling that is 16 feet long. And again, the whole thing's a damn disaster. And it's, like Dwayne said, down to the 12 by 15 inch square space that I work in that I keep nice and neat. And there's 50 other projects going on over the whole bench. If you can work on one thing at a time, more power to you. I've never been able to do it. It's a difficult thing to do. I tend to get.
Mike Ross is in his workshop right now. I can recognize from where he is. And no, that you're in your office area, aren't you, Mike? You're next to him is his workshop, and his workshop is what, about 8 or 9 by 20?
10.
Like that?
But 20, yes.
By 20. And he's got a paint booth. He's got his milling equipment. He's got a Unimat lathe. He's got a photo booth in there, and this, that, and the other. But he's got a spot that is actually, and believe it or not, his particular work area is the glass out of the window of a locomotive. This glass is like an inch thick. And that's what he works on. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, and it's a great place. If he spills something on it, it cleans up. If it's hard for cutting, it doesn't mar, and it's fantastic. It doesn't move. Trust me, it doesn't move. It's that heavy. An inch thick piece of glass out of the windshield of a locomotive. It's thick. So it's a good spot to work, and he just keeps that one windshield cleaned off, and everything else is sitting around it for easy access. So, yeah,
I clean it with a single edge razor blade.
Yep.
Rich, number of people have put in the chat, where do you get walnut in the U.S.?
Walnut. Well, we used to have lots of walnut groves around here, so it's pretty easy to get. But there's a place called Model Shipways, and you can access them online. Just do a Google search for Model Shipways, and they sell strip wood of all different types: walnut, cherry, teak, ash, oak, you name it, they get it. And it's all scale size wood. So you can get tons of stuff from there.
Go ahead, Mike.
Haven't found the site. So if you have it, stick it in the chat.
I will try and do that. Yeah.
And one of the things, guys, I want to add here, this presentation that Mossy's doing is going to be posted on our website. He sent, we're going to get that done here in the next 48 hours and get this PowerPoint posted on our website so you can download it and have access to it and see it all over again. But the other thing is, if Mossy, we may want to edit your PowerPoint before you send it to me.
Sure.
Add some links and stuff like that for resources.
Yeah, I'll do that.
For that particular website you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to point out one thing, if you don't mind me interjecting here, Mossy.
Sure.
Don't just stick to model railroad sources. He just gave you a shipbuilding resource to go to. The military modelers section, there's places where you can get all kinds of unbelievable resources in other areas of modeling. So don't just limit yourself and constrict yourself to our normal sources of materials in the model railroading world. Look at shipbuilding, look at other places, because they have some amazing tools for you as well.
One other thing I'd like to add to that is if you have kids and they have Legos are phenomenally well engineered. And if you want to build a right angle out of something and you need something to hold it in place, you can build that out of Legos. And it is dead square 90 degrees every single time when you put those blocks together. It's a cheap source for making good angle blocks and so forth. And if you're building something out of wood and you don't care about the Legos, you can take a piece of styrene, glue your Legos to it to the shape you want for the corners. If you're building something flat, drop your piece of wood in there, glue your wood together, and it'll pop right out, and you'll have a perfectly square whatever you're building. If you're building wall sections like stud walls or something like that. It's a really, really good trick that I found screwing around with my kids' Legos.
Mossy, I don't remember where it is, but there's actually a few years ago back, there was somebody that had a gigantic, Union Station that was like a granite or something type Union Station. They had actually built the entire structure with Legos.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
That's crazy. It's a lot of work, but
it looked good.
I bet it did. Thank you. Oh, why isn't this working now? Okay, let's try that. Whoops, sorry, back up. So the other thing that I want to emphasize is that details are important. They make your models come to life. This is a structure that I built. You'll notice the name on it. It's Mackey's Pub. Mike has been such a good friend to me. And our little Tuesday night group, I decided I'm going to start building models named after everybody in our group. This is Mackey's Pub. It started life as a 3-piece resin kit. The name of the company escapes me right now, but I'll try and remember it. I added a ton of detail to it. And like I said, the kit was only 3 pieces. It was the top cornice piece, the main structure is a solid block of resin, and the foundation and half of that sidewalk was the kit. Things that I added to it were the handles on the doors, the little railing. I built the structure on the side out of, again, walnut strip. It's hard to see, but there's a door in behind that fence that goes into the little shed. And that door has a window screen in it. And the window screen is a type of fabric that I found on one of my wife's Christmas decorations. Don't tell her I took it. But after I got that little piece, I took it down to the fabric store and I was able to find some very, very fine mesh fabric that has a silver sheen to it, and it makes beautiful screen doors. So that's kind of a little trick you guys can use if you need to make a screen door. Another thing of note, I know Mike lives down in Texas, so you can see the beer sign above, that's Falstaff beer, which was obviously from Texas. And the number on the door, or the number on the building, that's Mike's MMR number. I thought that would be kind of a nice touch. But your structures and your buildings and your models should all tell a story. And Mike's kind of a curmudgeon, so I put a vulture up on top of the building, and it's there for him. It's waiting for him.
I've been called nicer things by worse people.
Well, that's good.
Or should I say worse thing?
Worse things by nicer people?
Yeah, what are the things? Or whatever, yeah.
I don't know if that's a compliment or a shot, but we'll just take it. So go out and study the details in your surrounding area. So whatever you're modeling, go look at the surroundings, because you're going to find a ton of detail in around the trees. If you're modeling a forest, look for the pine cones on the ground. Model those. Model the detritus around the trees, the leaf fall and the clutter and branches and stuff like that. Oftentimes you go back into the woods and you find old machinery and junk just laying around. Model some of that stuff. Use those prototype photos as inspiration to add the detail to your layout, because it's going to make a world of difference, and it's going to draw people in, and they're going to want to stick around and look at your models a lot longer. And that's kind of the point of it. You want to draw them in and let them experience what you had going on in your head. Take progress photos of your work. Like if you have a smartphone, use your smartphone and do that, because you can blow that picture up and you can see all the detail of what you've either missed or what you need to add. Or if there's little areas that you need to fix that you're not normally going to see otherwise. But that camera is not going to lie to you. It's going to tell you everything that's either right or wrong with your model. It's been a real valuable tool for me and has helped a lot. And I think it will help you guys too. I'll tell you something else. When somebody's judging your models, they're looking for mistakes. They look at the overall picture of it first and they say, okay, yeah, that's a good model, or whatever. But when they determine that it's a good model, now they're looking for mistakes. And if you can use your phone to blow up the image and really get in there and dial in those little errors, it's going to make a world of difference on the overall presentation of your model too. It's also going to show you all of your little glue blobs or little shiny areas that you need to touch up. So something that can help you.
Rich, I want to interject something real quick, if you don't mind, on that same topic. One of our division members was getting ready to go to convention, and he had a structure. He goes, Mike, would you look this over before I take it to the contest room? Give me your opinion on it. I said, certainly. He sent me a photograph of it. And I start blowing the photograph up, just like Mossy's talking about. And whenever I do, man, I'm pointing out this and that and the other. And I said, here's what you need to fix. And look at the angle right here on this eave. And there's a separation right here. And this, that, and the other. And he comes back, he goes, yeah, those are all good points. He goes, can I ask you a question? I said, what's that? He goes, did you realize this is an in-scale building? And it was David Grind who submitted it to me. And I said, no, I didn't. I said, the fact that I'm pointing this out to you, if you can fix those things in scale, you're going to end up with a very high scoring building in the contest room. And he went back and did what I told him and won his category in the contest room. So what Mossy's telling you about blowing it up, I had no idea, because he already had it blown up, and I blew it up even more and started looking at this thing with a really fine-tooth comb. And I didn't realize what scale I was looking at. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's not that hard to fix that in HO, because that's just where my mind went. It shouldn't have, but it did. And he ended up winning first prize because he fixed those things, just like Mossy's talking about. I'm sorry, Mossy. Anyway.
No, thank you. More details here. This is another structure that I'm building. Bruce, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit on this one. This is Petrarca's Sausage Emporium, Bruce. And I don't know if I should say the name. Mike, should I say?
No. We've got some.
I got you. Anyway, the detail here is there's some good humor in it. If you can really see the guy behind the meat counter, he's got his finger on the scale, and the lady looking at him is kind of upset. So lots of little details in there. This is blown up quite a bit. This is all HO scale. Have a notice to the ceiling in the room. Now, after seeing this picture blown up, I can see quite a few little errors that I need to work on. But that tin ceiling is just a piece of aluminum foil that I embossed with a pencil to give it some texture. And it does a pretty good job of reflecting light back down when you close the building all up. That helps with the illumination in there. And since I'm modeling the 1920s, you can see some of the signs on the building. Those are all, or inside the room there, those are all from the 1920s. The Armor's Star ham on the right-hand side, that's from the 1920s. The menu items on the side with the pricing, that's all 1920s pricing. So do your research and find things that correlate to the era that you're modeling in too, because that all makes a big difference. Little details like the paper dispenser, the butcher paper dispenser on the right-hand side of the counter with the piece of paper coming out of it. The butcher paper on the...
Did you make that, Mossy?
Did I what?
Did you make that paper dispenser?
The paper dispenser was part of an old Dynamodels kit for the butcher shop.
Okay.
And it's rough cast metal, so it wasn't very good. I had to do a lot of cleanup work on it and then paint it. Same with the scales. The butcher counter as well with the glass. I used a piece of walnut on there and some acetate for the glass on the front. The meat grinder, the meat hanging on the wall behind, the rack, that was all in the kit. On the butcher paper on the scales, I took some 32 gauge wire and stripped it off. And the sausages that are on the butcher paper are the it's the insulating jacket from the wire.
Wow.
And there's like 12 sausages on there. So there's a lot of little detail things that you can add. The floors, again, walnut strip. I really like using the walnut strip. Same thing with the molding around the ceiling. And that's just to kind of hide the seam where the tin foil is. But all these things really make a difference, and it tells a story. And if you saw the rest of the building, you'd see a story that you probably don't want to see. So, and
let's just say the second floor has another type of establishment of the world's oldest profession. We can leave it like
yes, that's absolutely correct. We won't get into the name of that either.
No. Yeah.
Well, that's my clinic. I hope it helped you guys a little bit. Thanks for sticking around. And just remember, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I'm kind of a moron when it comes to this stuff. So don't beat yourself up over it. Just tell yourself that you can do it, and you can. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you.
Go ahead and stop your share if you would, Mossy.
Yep.
And everybody's giving you a round of applause. Y'all can do it one more time because he couldn't see that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now I want to throw one more thing out here that not everybody knows. Okay, guys, is there any way in you'd ever believe this is the first clinic that Mossy's ever given anywhere? How about that? Great job. Didn't he do a great job? Yeah, I thought so. Who's got questions? Step up and ask some questions. We got some time here. We're going to go ahead and let anybody ask questions that they want to. Who's got some questions? Oh, come on, Parham. I know you've got a question. You've always got a question.
I've exhausted my library.
You've reached your limit today, huh? Okay. All right. Got it. Reggie? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I should know better than that, right? Since I work remote.
Well, isn't that right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So when you on your building materials, because I'm gonna start. I've done kit bashes, but my mom threw away all of my scratch build stuff from when I was a kid. Are you using on your slat walls and stuff like that for HO? Is it 1/16 scale for your slat build material?
Yeah. As far as like clapboard siding goes.
Clapboard, yeah.
Yeah, I'm using 1/16.
Okay, cool. Because I got, what was it like? There's like 3/8. Man, that's big. That's like dollhouse size. But it depends on the building, right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Use the smallest stuff you can find, because if you look at there are some clapboard buildings out there. If you look at some of the houses that were built back in the 20s and 30s, they had pretty good sized clapboards on them. And
that's what I noticed.
And a lot of the buildings, you'll look at one house and then the house next door to it, and they'll both have clapboard, but it'll have a different look and a different size.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
So vary it up, because that adds a lot of interest to your layout.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Cole, jump in here. I know that as much scratch building and stuff as you do, that there's got to be something that you can add or question you can ask, because you do a lot of that stuff. So talk to us here for a second. Got a question for Mossy?
No, I don't. Honestly.
I think that I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Cole. I didn't mean to do that.
It's okay.
I think that speaks to the fact that Cole is much of a scratch builder, and you guys don't know that, but he likes to really scratch build and do stuff from the ground up, don't you, Cole?
Yeah, and, pretty much everything I do is board on board, strip wood, build.
And so from that aspect, the fact that this guy who does scratch building all the time doesn't have any questions or anything to add speaks to the degree of completeness of Mossy's clinic. So great job, Mossy. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Also, guys, I want to throw out there. I was able to sneak away a minute ago and pick up Mike Ross's certificate for structures. Mike, we've got this for you right here. As soon as you and I can get together, there's your certificate. Congratulations. I'm handing it to you virtually right now. Okay. So, all right. Anybody else have anything before we wrap up? It's been I think we've had a pretty good meeting today. We've covered a lot of topics. We've covered a lot of information. I hope you guys got a lot out of it today. Anybody else have any questions or anything before we adjourn? Anybody have anything you want to add? All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. You guys have a great week. Have a great Christmas, great holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and everybody be good. All right. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.